Carol nervously shifted her weight from one foot to the other, constantly checking the time. "Judy, we won't get the roses before 8 p.m, but I have to run. My son is at home with his grandmother. If I'm late, there will be a scandal at home." Judy frowned slightly. Carol was an excellent saleswoman. Moreover, she was a very kind and honest person, and not letting her go now, when the working day was already over, would be almost cruel. After her husband's death, Carol had been living with her mother-in-law and her 1-year-old son. The grandmother was happy to help with the baby, treating her son's widow with understanding and care. The only condition she had for her daughter-in-law was that she should return home immediately after work. If Carol was occasionally late, she would face an argument at home, being accused of neglecting her responsibilities to the child and spending time with unknown men somewhere. Carol knew that the elderly woman was actually deadly afraid of being alone. She had lost her son, and now her daughter-in-law and grandson were the closest people to her. And if something happened in Carol's life, like a new marriage, she would move to her husband's place, taking her son with her. Carol felt sorry for her beloved mother-in-law and tried never to be late for work. Judy, the owner of the flower shop, knew this too, and therefore warmly smiled. "Go ahead, I'll wait myself. Why are they delayed?" "Well, it's February 14th tomorrow. There are many orders, and there's a snowstorm. Traffic jams on the roads." "Another snowstorm," Judy said absent-mindedly. "Okay, Carol, get ready to go home." Carol nodded, quickly put on her down jacket, and ran out of the glowing and warm store, right into the dark and windy evening. Left alone, Judy closed her eyes for a moment and sighed. The fresh smell of flowers. She loved being here. The store was a gift from her husband for Valentine's Day. Judy remembered how William had brought her here for the first time and asked, "Do you like it?" And Judy had answered completely sincerely, "Yes." "Then this place is yours," William had said mysteriously, handing his wife the keys to the store. Judy looked at her husband confused. "William," she began uncertainly. "Thank you, but You'll be fine," William had said emphatically. "You've been sitting at home for too long, Judy. You need to do something." "William, you should have consulted me," Judy said glumly. "Tommy isn't even 2 years old yet. Have you thought about that?" "Yep, we'll find him a good nanny, and you'll be able to focus on the store," William replied. He struggled with his words, remaining silent for a few seconds before continuing. "Judy, you've become sad, easily irritated and constantly in a bad mood. I can't remember the last time you genuinely laughed. I understand that you're tired. Your whole life right now is Tommy, feeding, changing, walking and everything all the time. This Groundhog Day will get to anyone. But you are not alone. You're my wife and the mother of our son. We really want to see you happy and full of life." "Dear William," Judy sighed. He saw that she was sad and immediately found this shop to entertain her. Unfortunately, he didn't even have a clue about the real reason for her bad mood. Her thoughts were interrupted by a man in his 50s who was trying to squeeze through the door with a huge box of flowers. "Hurry up and take it. I'm rushing to go home," he shouted from the threshold, making it clear he didn't intend to stay any longer than necessary. An hour later, Judy's car sped through the blizzard along an empty road. William and Tommy had gone to the country house, which they informed Judy about via SMS. "And please buy a cake," her husband conveyed their son's request. Now, on the passenger seat, there were huge supermarket bags with a cake, croissants, fresh buns, and everything else her heart desired. Judy smiled briefly. Tomorrow was Valentine's Day. If she managed to put Tommy to bed early, Maybe they could have a romantic evening. Perhaps they were missing romance. No, William was a wonderful husband, but lately Judy felt like he treated her with a tender, caring condescension that was more typical of a father than a loving man. William never forgot to congratulate her on a holiday, remembered what flowers she liked, and invariably spoiled her with various pleasant things. But why did more and more memories of the early years of their marriage come to Judy's mind? Back then they had almost nothing, but there was some special blinding brightness to each day, and joy, a lot of joy. "Judy, I'm home." William would come home from work shouting cheerfully. Judy's heart would leap with joy. She would run to the hallway to hug her husband, inhaling his familiar scent, rub her nose against his cheek and laugh. Ouch, prickly. For some reason, these memories made her feel melancholy. Now Judy frowned, as if from a sudden headache. She couldn't get used to these sudden bouts of melancholy, even though she knew how to deal with them. All she needed was to stop aside the road and rummage in the glove compartment for a pack of cigarettes, hidden from prying eyes. No one knew she smoked. The pungent, burning smoke didn't even appeal to Judy, but for some reason it helped. Or maybe it was just an illusion of help. It gave her some pause, during which she could say to herself, "Come on, you have a great husband, your son is growing up so lovely, and a job. You're not in need. You're not looking for somewhere to borrow money before your paycheck. You've got everything, so calm down. And romance, passion, well, they're gone. But there's respect, loyalty, care. Isn't that enough for you?" Judy took a slow, bitter drag. Was she to blame? Had she spent too much time at work? William's gift, the small flower shop that had initially scared her, had soon turned into one of the best flower shops in the city. Judy had gotten lost in her work without even realizing it. At first she was afraid she wouldn't be able to handle it, and she didn't want to leave the familiar routine of being a young mum. But the flowers helped. Every time she received a fresh batch from the supplier, she imagined that the fiery red roses waved at her with their serrated leaves, and the chrysanthemums shone so brightly with their yellow, purple and pink colours, as if they wanted to please her. Judy. It was impossible to let these beautiful flowers down and leave them unsold, slowly withering away. It would be like abandoning a freezing kitten on the street. Judy just couldn't allow that. She had to learn an unfamiliar profession, how to manage a shop, and she succeeded. However, it took a lot of time and effort. Maybe that's why something intangible but important disappeared from her relationship with William. All right, time to go. Judy finished smoking and imagined herself soon at the summer house, where it was warm, bright, and there was tea with cake. Tommy would be happy. Judy turned the key to start the car, but the car would not start. Oh no, stalled, at night, and no one around. Judy took out her phone and dialed William's number. Busy. One more time. The connection was lost. It was probably because of the blizzard. The car was warm, but not for long, as the heater wasn't working, and Judy didn't want to sit here waiting for a ride. Who knows when it will come, and whether someone will stop to help her. About 10 meters from the road, the silhouettes of houses were dark. A village, Judy guessed. She got out of the car, shivering from the wind, and walked resolutely towards the village. It's already late, everybody is probably asleep, and I won't get any help. But maybe there's at least mobile coverage there, Judy pondered. The village was indeed asleep, although it was hard to call these 3 old houses a village. They were all shrouded in sleepy night darkness, and only one window showed a weak light. Struggling through the snow, Judy reached the rickety gate. It was open. She didn't hear the watchdog barking. Well, what was there to guard? The house was completely dilapidated. The woman decided to peek through a narrow window to see who could live in this forgotten place. She quietly approached the window and was stunned by the scene before her. A child lay on the floor near the stove, tightly hugging a little dog. There was no one else in the house. Judy approached the wooden door and knocked softly. Shortly, the door opened wide, and a grey ball rolled out from under Judy's feet. A puppy. At the same time, a joyful child's exclamation rang out. "Mummy!" Judy looked up and saw a girl of 4 or 5 years old standing before her, wearing felt boots and an oversized coat. Surprise and disappointment froze on the little girl's face. Judy was not her mother. "Are you waiting for your mum?" Judy squatted down in front of the girl. "She'll probably come soon." "She hasn't come for 3 days," muttered the little girl, tears appearing in her bright blue eyes. "We've been waiting." "Waiting?" "We?" Judy asked. "So you're not alone? Who else is at home?" "We're with Wolfie." The girl nodded at the puppy, wagging its tail at Judy's feet. "And—" Judy hesitated for a second. It was clear that the girl's mother was not coming back soon, but Judy couldn't leave an abandoned child alone. "And aren't you afraid to spend the night alone with Wolfie?" "We're not afraid," the girl shrugged. "We're just freezing, and we want to eat." "And where are your parents?" Judy asked cautiously. "Do you have a dad or grandma?" The girl shook her head. "We only live with Mummy." Judy introduced herself and asked the little girl's name. The little girl replied, "Rosie," and for the first time in a while she smiled. "Rosie," Judy repeated warmly. She took out her phone from her pocket and called her husband. The connection seemed to be there. This time William answered immediately. William answered and asked where she was. "The car stalled 5 kilometers away from home. There's a village nearby. I went for help, and there's this girl, William. She's been alone in the house for 3 days, hungry. William, come here. I don't know what to do, but we can't leave her here," Judy pleaded with her husband. William apparently was going to object, so Judy kept talking. "Come as soon as possible. We'll figure out what to do. Apparently my battery is dead. I won't start without your help anyway. Just bring a thermos of tea and sandwiches. I'm waiting." Judy quickly hung up the phone without giving her husband a chance to argue. The whole time, Rosie was staring intently at the uninvited nocturnal visitor. "Rosie, where do you think your mother might be?" "Maybe something happened to her?" asked Judy, not understanding what was going on in this house and how you can leave a small child for a few days. "I think she's out for a walk," the little girl said with an important look. "What do you mean, she's walking?" the woman blurted out. "She has a friend who lives in the next village. When Mama goes to her, she doesn't come home at night. She leaves me and Wolfie soup and bread. But this time she's gone too long. We've already eaten the soup. We have eaten the bread too," said the girl with sadness in her eyes. "Rosie, now we can go to my car. It's not far. I have fresh rolls and croissants there, and my husband will be here soon to bring us some tea. You can stay with us tonight. We'll bring you back in the morning, okay?" Judy asked, completely unsure of what to do about the situation. "And if Mum comes and we're not there?" Rosie suggested. "Mum? We'll leave a note with my phone number on it," Judy decided. "Do you have paper and a pencil?" Rosie didn't answer right away. "And Wolfie?" she asked finally. "I can't leave him alone. He'll freeze here without me." "And we'll take Wolfie. Bring the paper," said Julie firmly, realizing that the child must not be left in the cold house in any case. The girl obediently brought a sheet of paper and a stump of pencil. While Rosie put on her hat and mittens, Judy wrote a note for her good-for-nothing mother. "Forced to take your hungry daughter from the cold house." At the end she wrote her phone number and put the note on the empty table. "Well, baby, take Wolfie and let's go." She smiled at the girl. "Let's go," nodded Rosie, quickly taking the puppy in her arms. In about 15 minutes they were already near the car. The car had had time to cool down in that time. Judy put the baby on the front seat, wrapped her with a blanket, which she got from the trunk, and again tried to start the car. The attempt failed. The car refused to show any sign of life. Watching Rosie eating croissants with custard, the woman almost burst into tears. How could the mother bring her child to such a state? What would have happened to her before morning if Judy had not accidentally come to their house? Would the little one have survived hungry in the cold house? Probably not. Rosie didn't forget about her companion Wolfie. She broke off pieces of croissant and gave them to the puppy, who happily ate them while wagging his tail. William arrived quickly, with a half-asleep Tommy sitting in the back seat of his car. He clearly enjoyed the sudden night adventure. Father and son quickly got dressed, jumped into the car and sped through the night and snowdrifts to save Mum. Judy got out of the car, trying not to make any noise. Rosie, having eaten her croissant and soft roll, dozed off. William hurried over to his wife. "Judy," he began loudly, when he saw his wife quickly put a finger to her lips. He switched to a whisper. "You can't do it like that, Judy, and if her mother shows up, she'll run to the police. Then you won't be able to prove that you didn't kidnap the child, but only wanted to help. William, I left a note for her mother on the table. I explained everything. I left our phone numbers. But you can't just abandon a child. There's a house there. There's a cold house. No food at all." "Oh, Judy." William sighed and hugged his wife. "And what's this?" There was an indignant squeak from under Judy's jacket. "It's Wolfie." Judy mysteriously smiled and unzipped her chest, and immediately a smart puppy's muzzle peeked out. "And you brought a dog?" William almost groaned. "Okay, I'll charge your battery. We'll go home and figure it out there." Judy woke up early in the morning, never getting much sleep. They had arrived home well after midnight and had to settle Rosie in for the night, find her a pyjama, and find a bed for Wolfie. She also put her son to bed, who was consumed with burning curiosity. "Who is Rosie?" He wouldn't give up. "A princess," Judy smiled, "from a fairy tale. You see, she got lost and ended up in a fairy tale kingdom where everyone was asleep. But Rosie isn't asleep, so we had to take her away until the king and queen woke up." "And Wolfie? Will he live with us now?" "No, son. Wolfie guards the princess and must always be with his owner." "And you?" "Shh, it's time to sleep. We're all exhausted today. Good night." William sadly looked at the sleeping girl. "What are we going to do with her now?" Judy shrugged. "Let's try to go to that village tomorrow. Maybe the mother will show up." "Not we, but I'll try to go there," William decisively interrupted her. "We still don't know what kind of mother is there and how she'll receive us. I'll go in the morning." The morning was gloomy. The blizzard had died down, and there seemed to be a special winter silence everywhere. In the branches of the pines, in the air, and all around. Just without the sun, thought Judy. She looked out the window as William's car disappeared into the distance. "Judy?" The woman heard Rosie's calm voice. "Good morning. Are you up already? Rosie, did you sleep well?" "Nice, thank you. But Wolfie wants to go for a walk." Judy only just noticed that Rosie was holding a whimpering puppy in her arms. Apparently, he really needed to go outside. "Well, okay, we'll go for a walk with Wolfie together. We just don't have a leash." "He won't run away," Rosie assured her. "He never runs away from me." Hastily dressing the girl, Judy went outside and saw that Rosie was right. The puppy never strayed more than 3 meters away from Rosie. The woman was amazed at how loyal and smart the little dog turned out to be. Rosie and Judy were drinking tea in the kitchen after breakfast when William returned. He came in just as Judy was telling the little girl about how she also once had a dog named Wolfie. "Good morning, ladies. Where's Tommy?" William asked, to avoid starting a conversation in front of the child. "He's still asleep," Judy laughed, and catching her husband's gaze, asked, "Rosie, go wake up Tommy." "Well?" Judy asked when Rosie left. "Nothing," William grumbled. "Her mother never showed up. The note is still there. I knocked on the neighbour's door, asked around." William took a cookie from the vase and twirled it in his fingers and continued. "Well, in general, her mother's name is Sandra. Once upon a time she went to study or work somewhere. She came to the village a couple of times, all fashionable. They said she had some rich guy, and then he left when he found out she was pregnant. Sandra came back to her village, gave birth here, and then started hanging out. The neighbours fed and took care of Rosie somehow. Her mother is still walking around here." "William, this is terrible," Judy whispered. "William, what can we do?" The husband bitterly smiled. "Think for yourself, Judy. We need to report the stray child to the police. That's all we can do for the girl." "William, I'm asking you. Let's wait. No one is looking for the child. Let her stay with us for some more time. We need to find her mother and talk to her. Giving the baby to an orphanage is easy, but how will we get her back later? Have you thought about that? We must think about the child first." Judy tried to convince her husband not to report the girl to the police. She could not say for herself the reason, but she didn't want Rosie to end up in an orphanage. She felt sorry for this bright, developed child beyond her years. Laughter erupted from Tommy's room. It seemed the children got along great. After thinking for a couple of minutes, William nodded in agreement with his wife. The next day, Sandra was not at home again. The spouses realized that they were acting recklessly, but the little tender girl blended so perfectly into their family, as if they had never been a night road, a cold house, and there was only Rosie, who since the birth of a child lived with them. Like a daughter. Judy closed her eyes and restlessly wrapped herself in the sheets. Memories caused almost physical pain. After Tommy's birth, Judy could no longer have children. The doctor said not to despair. Judy had a wonderful, healthy son, and many didn't even have that. He said some reassuring words, but Judy didn't hear them. She didn't hear anything back then, except that her uterus had to be removed due to complications during childbirth. Not then. After that, Judy didn't try to understand what kind of complications they were. You can't turn back time, and the future, which turned out to be always so simple and understandable, as if it was covered with fog. They and William dreamed that they would have 2 children, a girl and a boy. She didn't tell her husband right away and regretted it many times. The further it went, the harder it was to confess. Confess? Strange word. After all, she wasn't to blame for what happened. And yet she always feared that William would bring up the topic of a second child. But years went by, and William never mentioned a daughter, and he looked quite content. They began to think that perhaps 1 child was enough. She loved her son with desperate love, and this already strong maternal love was fueled by the understanding that this was her only, first and last child. Sometimes it seemed to Judy that the deaf longing that tormented her in Tommy's first year had gone away. It gave way to humility and the ability to rejoice in what they had. And now Rosie appeared. Judy listened. A quiet, dry cough could be heard from the living room. Rosie was sitting on the couch wrapped in a blanket. Judy put her hand on the little girl's forehead. A thermometer wasn't necessary. It was clear that her temperature was high. "William!" Judy rushed into the bedroom. "William, wake up! Rosie has a fever." "Ah!" William threw off the blanket. "I'll go to the pharmacy now and—" "William!" "What pharmacy? She's been sitting in the cold for 3 days already. She must be examined by the doctor. Take her to the hospital, and I'll visit her village again." Judy gathered Tommy, got him in the car before driving to Sandra's house. A woman, around 30 years old, opened the door for her. "Sandra, my name is Judy. Have you read my note?" "Judy?" The woman seemed bewildered, as if she didn't immediately understand the words addressed to her. "Come in. So you took Rosie with you?" "I was waiting for you to call." "Why?" Sandra, irritated, shrugged. "Did anyone ask me if I needed her?" Judy stared at the woman. Most likely, Sandra had been beautiful once, but not anymore. Her blonde hair, thick and probably with a warm golden tint, now hung in careless tangles. Her face was swollen, and there were bags under her eyes. The neighbours weren't lying. She really did drink. Judy's phone chirped shortly. The text message from William was short. "Rosie is being admitted to hospital. Pneumonia." Judy looked up at Sandra again. "Sandra, Rosie is in the hospital. My husband just sent me a text message. She has pneumonia. Let's go." "Where?" asked the mother. "To the hospital, of course. I'm driving. I'll take you." Sandra looked at Judy with a distracted smile, then turned away. "Sandra!" Judy didn't realize she was shouting. "Rosie is your daughter. She's in the hospital. Let's go. Don't just stand there." "I won't go. I don't want to." Sandra's voice was quiet and very calm. "What?" Judy felt like she was running out of air. She unzipped her jacket, but her fingers weren't cooperating and didn't immediately grasp the slider. Okay, I understand. Listen, if you don't want your daughter, give her to me. I can see you need money. How much do you need?" Sandra didn't answer. She just silently closed the door on her guests. For the next 2 weeks, Judy and William visited Rosie in the hospital every day. Finally, the little girl was almost healthy already. "There is no sign or word from the mother," the doctor explained. "I had to inform the police and the guardianship authorities. After Rosie is discharged, she'll go to an orphanage." "But maybe we could take her home right away." Judy hugged Rosie closer, who was dozing in her arms. "After all, a child is better off in a family than in an orphanage." "I understand everything," the chief doctor replied. "But understand this as well. There are laws, and we cannot break them. Maybe you will be able to adopt her later." "Okay, thank you." Judy gently put the sleeping girl in bed and covered her with a blanket. "My husband and I will prepare the documents for adoption. Good luck to you." The doctor smiled warmly and sincerely. On the way home, Judy thought about the upcoming conversation with William. While they took care of Rosie, it seemed self-evident that the girl would stay with them. But now they needed to decide. Would William agree? Maybe he still hoped that someday they would have another child of their own. "William," Judy began, "they are going to send Rosie to the orphanage. I would like us to—" "Adopt her," William finished her sentence. He didn't seem surprised. On the contrary, he had probably already decided for himself. "I agree. Sandra will probably lose her parental rights after the guardianship, and police sort things out, of course." "But that's not all." Judy looked at her husband carefully. "I have to tell you one more important thing. After Tommy—" "I know everything," William interrupted her. "I knew from the very beginning." "But Don't ask me how I found out, okay? William pulled his wife closer to him. It doesn't matter. What does matter then? Judy muttered. Because I can't. And that doesn't matter either. William's eyes sparkled with tenderness. The only thing that matters is that I love you. We have a happy family. We have a son, and soon we'll have a wonderful daughter. William smiled and hugged his wife. A year had passed. The morning sun shone through the thin tulle curtains. Judy smiled without opening her eyes. The rays tickled her eyelids. The door of the house slammed. William returned from the city. The bedroom door swung open, and a grown-up shaggy puppy ran into the room. Rosie and Tommy followed right behind him. "Mum," Rosie said, climbing onto the bed and hugging Judy. "Daddy's here." "We're going skiing! We're going skiing!" Tommy shouted, jumping on the springy mattress. Judy laughed, hugging her son and daughter. "Judy," William's cheerful voice came from the hallway. "I'm home." Judy hugged her husband and children and felt like the happiest woman on earth. After all, she had everything she needed for perfect happiness. Rosie, either because of her age or perhaps her psyche, decided to erase her past from her memory and didn't remember her previous life. She sincerely considered Judy, William and Tommy her family. She didn't remember Sandra. Sometimes Sandra appeared in her nightmares, but the girl tried to dispel these nightmares, realizing that now she had only one family, a family that loves her unconditionally and will never betray her.